And you know, like horses don't have TV. You know, they don't have Facebook, social media. They don't have friends coming over or you going over or going out to eat. So whatever mental place you leave that horse in the arena, that horse is going home with it. And it should be a good message. Whether the horse got in trouble, whether the horse got rewarded, whatever, but that's their TV. They're just thinking about all night, what happened, you know, or that was cool, or I hope I get to go back, or whatever. But as soon as they start walking in that arena like it's the principal's office, you needed to do something a little different.
The Converse Cowboy Journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers that are living the Western lifestyle, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test yourself in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I realize that there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts. This is the Converse Cowboy. Brought to you by Kerry Kelley Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter.
All right, man. Mr. Adan Banuelos, thank you for your time. Appreciate you coming in to sit down. I know time is our most valuable asset, so I appreciate you sharing it with me here today. I'm going to run through some of the stuff you've done just in the last few years, and it's amazing, man. In the last 3 years alone, you've won $615,000 at the NCHA Futurity. Just there. 2018 Futurity Reserve Champion on Baboon Horizon. 2019 Futurity Reserve Champion on Twice in Santiago. 2020 Futurity Champion on Allspice. In 2018 you had a total of 84 aged event finalists. And in 2018 and 2019 you won over $1.25 million. NCHA Hall of Famer with close to $4 million in lifetime earnings. And I'd say you're kind of killing it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that's good. And that sounds, you know, you don't think about it like that. You know, that sounds really cool. Yeah, all the stuff that we've been fortunate enough to win and be places and execute. That's cool to hear all in one moment.
Do you ever take time to realize exactly what you've done in the last 3 years, you know?
No, sir. No, I think that wherever your head needs to be, which before we started filming here, we were talking a little bit about things that you're attracted to and things that I like too, and the mental side of it is some people need to think about things and some people should not think about things, you know, and I don't like thinking about that, what's on that paper, and I am very fortunate that it's on there, but I don't like, no sir, I don't think about it, not at all. I just keep going, you know, just keep going and just hopefully get ready a little better this time than last time and see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. So I'm in real estate investing, and I have rental properties back home in Louisiana, and like I'm just steady churning and buying stuff. And somebody asked me that same question one day. They're like, "Have you ever taken the time to look at what you're doing?" And my answer was very similar to yours. I was like, "No, not really. I'm just looking to what's next."
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it can be productive in some way as long as we don't dwell on it or like let ourselves get overwhelmed by either the success or the failures. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so take that, the good, the successes, and use that as confidence.
Yes.
Don't let it blow our ego out of the water.
100%. Like, you know, I think that half of what I said a minute ago is I'm a little full of shit because it's good to have it on the inside, you know, but no, I don't think that it's good for it to come out. You know, so it's good for you to think certain things and try to achieve certain things, but I don't like people that talk about it, and I don't like to hear it or say it, you know.
Yeah. I think that's important though, like hearing you say that, because you don't get to your level. You don't get these statistics by not believing in yourself, you know? And so we may get into some woo-woo shit here. I got a feeling we're going to dive into some mystical stuff, which I'm totally into, because I think that's where it all starts, right? It's all in our brain. It's all in our thoughts. Everything that we see was once a thought in somebody's brain.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yep.
And I think what you're doing is no different. If you didn't believe in yourself, none of this shit would be possible.
Well, this is America. It's possible.
So I'm curious. Well, I'll use that as a segue into everybody in the cutting horse industry. I'm not going to say everybody, but the majority of people in the cutting horse industry work their ass off. So everybody works hard. Most people work hard.
Absolutely.
But what is it that separates, in your opinion, what is it that separates the goods from the greats? Those people that are consistently in the winning circle.
Only in the cutting we're talking about, or I'm going to respond to, is I think that you can criticize or overwork in this industry. It can become a disease, you know. It can become, it's not necessarily the amount of time. It's not necessarily, I'm saying that you still need to put in a lot of time, but whenever you compare, the way that I like to look at it is you know, you have NBA, NFL, hockey leagues, you have professional athletes that a coach gets famous for coaching for a long period of time, you know, and one thing that I think that we don't think about enough is how good at sending a message to an athlete that doesn't speak English and isn't making millions of dollars. It's easy for them guys to take the ass chewing off the coach, because whenever we're done, I'm going home and I'm gonna look at my bank account and, you know, see my big house, and I'm a professional athlete, you know. But whenever horses decide to take the criticism and the hours and the there's a lot that goes into it for them to put food in your fridge, you know, and those are our athletes, and there's no money involved. There's just some respect that goes both ways, and I give all horse people a lot of props on being able to send a message to something that doesn't know how to communicate. They do, but not speak. You know, so that's really cool. And then when it comes to cutting, you put your hand down, you know, so that's even cooler, because this horse has decided to help you in public with the reins on his neck, you know, so that's really cool, I think. And I don't know if I lost track of the question, but I think that one of our common problems is that a horse shows a little bit of progress and we ask for a little more, you know, and there's so many good athletes now that these horses are very natural at it, physically, some of them mentally, rarely both, you know. Very rare is this horse just a very natural thinker and a very natural athlete, and but we want to win too bad. That's why, going back to the beginning of this, just do what you feel like, and what you feel like is almost too much, and then just that's good enough, you know. But I think that we get a little bit better, the horse gets a little bit better, and we want a little bit more, and our cinder blocks become very hollow on our base. You know, and to me, my base, I'm not very good at the fundamentals of it, but I hope to make up for it in the mental blocks that I'm putting in my base. You know, so making a very confident horse, making a horse that's thinking, a horse that can get in a bind and doesn't panic, and it helps you out slowly, but ready to go get it again. Those are the things that I focus on to offset the things that I don't do physically to a horse,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm curious to know, like, how do you find that balance within yourself and then also with your horses? How do you find the balance of knowing when to push, like when you can squeeze more out of either yourself or your horses, and then also when to let go and kind of surrender to what is?
Obviously, this isn't something that you can just wake up, not have ever done, and then say, hey, I'm going to go be successful at. I think anybody can, but not quickly, So I knew that I was going to work with horses from a very young age, and they've always been my favorite thing, So whenever you get to spend that much time around them, then you get to see their concerned tails and their I'm faking it tails and screw you tails, and so that's where you got to develop that of understanding the horse is too much, the horse is not enough, horse's distractions, and that I think that's a lot to do with it. Yeah. Is just understanding the horses. I want out because I'm not being good, or I want out because this isn't fun anymore. So I think every work should start not very low, but low enough to not fail. Yeah. I think that sometimes we leave the barn and this horse finished here, and that's where we want to start back. Well, it's a lot easier to fail that way. So I think that if you just start just a notch or two below, you can't screw today up, and or not most of the time, but that's what I think, is that everybody wants to start and then finish and then go and then go and go. But if you'll just back it off a notch every day and then finish a little better, then that's where the confidence comes in, and the horse feels like you're part of the team. You're not just the boss. You're not, and this horse wants to help you do well.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew you did grow up in a performance horse family, right? I'm curious to know, who were some influences that either gave you the push to say, yes, go do this? And how did you know, at what point did you realize, okay, maybe I'm good enough to do this cutting thing? Because I know you did some rodeo, and you're a pretty damn good roper, and you can also do some work with cow horse stuff. So yeah, you are a damn good horseman. But I'm curious, with that passion, with that drive, did you ever get influenced to maybe go try something else? Or did you think through social conditioning, maybe I need to go get a job? Or
so money, not the most important thing, but it's kind of right up there with oxygen, right? So you do go through these little things where it's like, man, if I tried this hard somewhere else, I see my friends or people that say they're my friends or whatever, right. Nice cars, nice things, nice this and that. And whenever you can't afford things that are simple and things that are necessary, you start thinking like that. I don't think like that anymore, and I don't think that I was ever supposed to naturally think like that. I don't think that God gave me a brain to be a material person. I think that, but you do get into some slumps to where you start looking over the fence, and the grass is greener, and you. But I would have been very miserable if I would have buckled or tried, and I wouldn't have even done it. Just the fact of me thinking about it scared me so bad that I wouldn't try it, if that makes sense. And so influences, my parents are best friends now, but they did not like each other. The best parents, without them, my dad, my mom, she's someone that is gonna make sure you're in the right place mentally. She tried to do it for me to be in the right place physically, but my dad only promotes confidence. It takes he has very few things that he'll lose his temper over, and he does have one, but I haven't seen it in a long time. And growing up, he was always, good job, man. You know, well, Daddy, that wasn't very good. He's like, yeah, it was. It's fine. You know, we got to do this a little different. We got to do that a little different. And you know, I think too, we're joking around with somebody the other day about them not having a good horse to show at scholarship this year in the youth. And my dad would take me by the hand, and we would walk around whatever building we were at, and he'd just start asking people, hey, does your turnback horse cut? Does your turnback horse cut? Till we'd find one that somebody would say yes, and rarely was I entered on time, so Boyd, he started calling me Adan, you know, early, because my dad wouldn't enter me on time, and I'd end up showing somebody's turnback horse, and Brady Bowen's turnback horse was, the one that got it the most, you know, because he was always the go-to if we couldn't find somebody to let me on. But
how old were you then?
4 or 5 maybe, all the way up to, and I give a lot of credit to that, because I got to get on a lot of different horses, and you know how kids are, all hotheads, and they want to do good or pull, you know, either we're going to win or I'm pulling, you know, and my dad, I would be running across the arena sideways, and I'd be like, Daddy, can I pull yet? He'd be like, don't pull, you know, so he hated me pull, he wouldn't let me pull. So I think he learned how to, I don't know if manipulate's the right way, but I say that word a lot. But to manipulate your way into the right spot on a horse with your hand down, convince is a better way. How to convince a horse that's just completely screwing you, how to just don't hit the judges for 2.5 minutes, and we'll see what happens. Now the funny thing is that my dad, we ride together every day, and we'll go to a weekend show, and I'll be like, hey, Dad, will you show this horse for me? Will you show that horse for me? And yeah, sure, no problem. And I'm like, Dad, you gotta pull on him. And he's like, okay. He is not pulling, man. He is not pulling. He's like, I thought I was getting a check. I was like, who cares about this $200 check? But he's just got that in him, you know, to where it's like just, very positive.
Yeah.
And so I give my mom and dad a lot of credit for my positivity and attitude, which I'm not saying is good, but whatever I have, they deserve the credit. The good things that I have.
Yeah.
Bad things are my fault, but yeah.
Yeah. You've got a quote that I really liked. I think I was listening to another interview you did, and you were referring to what you get to do, like referring to getting to do what you love to do, and you said, I don't feel like I ever really work.
Oh, yes, sir. Yep.
And I thought that was so cool, man, because when you can wake up and you can make money doing what you love to do, I think you win.
Yes, sir. Yep. And yep. There's a lot to be said about doing what you love, and if you can do it as a kid, and it's your favorite thing to do, obviously you're not getting paid for it, and you can do that for the rest of your life, and then you start getting paid for it, forget about it. It's so good, you know, and I love brains, you know, like I really, like I'll gamble with you on which fly is gonna shit on the wall first. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I love to figure out what's going on in there, and so I just took my Game Boy pretty much, and I just spent the rest of my life with it, you know. So I just every day you just try to get a little higher score and try to get this horse to do a little bit more, and you know, like, horses don't have TV, you know, they don't have Facebook, social media, they don't have friends coming over or you going over or going out to eat. So whatever you leave the arena, whatever mental place you leave that horse in the arena, that horse is going home with it, you know, and it should be a good message, whether the horse got in trouble, whether the horse got rewarded, whatever, but that's their TV. They're just thinking about all night what happened, you know, or that was cool, or I hope I get to go back, or whatever. But as soon as they start walking in that arena like it's the principal's office, you need to do something a little different.
Talk to me a little bit about, we're going to go back to, take me back to 2019, Bad Boone Horizon, Reserve Futurity champion. I want to know, like, I want to know your pregame. I want to know your pregame practices, your pregame mentality. You know, what is the self-talk like in Adan Banuelos' head before, let's just say, the first go, and then semifinals and the finals? Like,
so I'll take you back further than that. That horse, the Quirks, Buster Quirk, Todd Quirk, and Elizabeth, they bought that horse. And Buster, we wouldn't have done it without him, because I went to that 2-year-old sale saying how much I like this horse, and I think the most that I had spent on a horse at that point might have been 80, possibly 100, you know, and I like this horse quite a bit, and I wasn't comfortable setting a new record on money to spend yet, you know. So I think I said this horse is definitely worth 100, and if that 25,000 doesn't matter to you, then 125 would be fine. Well, I'm sitting up there watching with Todd Quirk, and I are standing side by side, and this horse gets to 125, and I'm not comfortable, you know. But I love the horse. Watching him, I'm like, damn, why'd you go for so much money? And nowadays,
did you get to working before?
No, sir. No, never. No. And so nowadays, 125 is Dollar General. You know, like it's different now. But so I hit it one more time, just scared. You know, like, okay, I'm gonna hit it one more time, whatever the number was then, and then I'm like, Todd, you do it, you know, and I back up, and Todd, he hits it once or twice, and then he's like, I'm not sure, you know. And so his dad called, Mr. Buster, called Todd, and he said, we still got him? And he goes, no, he's going for too much. He said, you better get him. And he, thank goodness, was watching online. So that's that, and this is important, I think, to go to the first go round. So that horse, I worked him 2 times after the sale, possibly still during the Futurity. And this horse is very motivated, very eager to work, very sensitive, big motor, but like all horses that bring good money at the 2-year-old sale, that was his Futurity up to date. So he's like, all right, I just got done with the Super Bowl of my life, because he didn't know where we were going. So you could just feel like this horse needed a break. So Todd and Buster took him back to Louisiana for a month. I'm not saying that every horse, that's a good idea at all, but I'm just saying is that I was very proud of being comfortable with that horse having 30 days off right after I had spent more money than I ever have, which I think that it'd be easier to spend my own money than somebody else's, you know, because at least if you screw up, you're like, well, it was my choice, you know. But fast forward to the Futurity, that horse is still very sensitive, and I still get a little grief here and there about, well, why didn't you take your hobbles off in the Futurity? You know, you could have done something. You could have won. You could have this and that. No, it turned out just fine. You know, because that horse had such a conservative, big motor and so much feel on his sides and in his mouth that it wouldn't have taken much for me to make him have a penalty. You know, even though he didn't want to do it, it wouldn't take very much for me to screw up and just go too far, and then him have to work harder to get back somewhere. So all through that Futurity, first go, I don't remember. Second go, I don't remember. Semis, I don't remember. I do remember the finals, and that's a good feeling because, and like I can feel it, you know. It's a good feeling whenever you start a run and you're just thinking so hard about don't screw up and be sure you, and then there's a moment that clicks and you're like, shit, he got it, you know, like he's working good, like have fun. It's a Futurity, dude.
Yeah.
Just, and everything just falls into rhythm, and that's a good feeling of having a sensitive horse that is so mentally strong and contained, and nobody knows that, you know, I could breathe on this thing and he'll go, you know, and we don't want no, I mean, no. So, and I was very happy with that Futurity, and a lot of people aren't happy with second place, you know. Well, I mean, it pays good, you know, and I think that some people try to win first so bad that they don't even get a look at the finals because there's just too much effort into a horse that doesn't speak that, you know. So yeah,
that's so intriguing to me, how dialed in you are to your horses and what they need and what you feel. You know what I mean? And so I just got into cutting about a year ago, and it blows my mind. I'll come in and watch the Open. I'll watch you guys in the practice pen. Most of the time, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. You know what I mean? I ride with James Payne, and he's very Socratic, and he'll work a horse, and he'll say, well, what do you see? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know.
Well, he's so good at consistency, it's crazy.
Yeah, but all of you guys are so, everything what y'all do is so subtle, and the feel and the timing. Like that's a question I've been asking with Matt Gaines was in here 2 days ago, and then Paul Hansma came in earlier today.
That's cool.
And so I'm like,
I wish Paul was here now. That'd be cool. Yeah.
He has respect from everybody in that
sir.
industry.
He's a 10
across the board.
Yeah.
But that was my question: is how do you teach feel to an amateur? And I know that question is kind of like, how do you explain the color blue to a blind person?
Yes,
like, I get it.
Yes, sir. So no, not at all. So day one, you got to teach a horse to learn. Okay, you can't teach a horse to do this or do that or whatever. So when I say teach a horse to learn is that, hey, when I push here, then you should go over there, you know, and when I go over there, then you should go over here, and they learn. And they stop for a second and they have a look and they're like, got it. You know, well, if you don't mess that up, then your road's a little shorter. You know, obviously the horses are all different and some of them get it quicker than others. But I think that, and this is just speaking for myself, because it feels very weird me talking about this on camera and me saying, I'm not saying that I know, you know, I'm just saying this is what I believe. And I believe that confidence in anything is necessary. So I believe that if you're blind and you can't see the color blue, well, sometimes you don't need to hear that. Sometimes you don't need to hear that you're blind. Sometimes we need to figure out a different way, or we need to start so low, like I told you about the works, you know, where you start. I think that where you start is very important. I think that, you know, you can go buy a good horse and you can cause more harm to yourself spending a lot of money and then disappointing yourself, your family, your trainer, your horse, yourself, everything. I'm not saying don't go buy a good horse, but what I'm saying is that be prepared to make a lot of mistakes, and the sooner you get okay with, or the sooner you understand that there's going to be mistakes and every mistake you make is getting you closer to the win, then those mistakes deteriorate or they get smaller, because when you screw up scared, you screw up big. You know, when you screw up because you just don't know, but you're not worried so much about looking for the problem or looking for the mistake or thinking about the mistake, then you screw up small. And in every run, open futurities, Mercuria opens, non-pros, amateur, in every run there's a mistake, at least one, at least. But you just learn how to screw up small, you know, and you learn how to screw up with an amount of pressure that it's like, oh, I've been there, done that wrong before, I almost did it again.
Yeah.
But thank goodness I did it that one time before to where I didn't do it all the way today.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, what gets you victories. And now victories can be first place, victories can be in the finals, victories can just be your horse just worked good and you didn't win a damn thing, you know. But it's all about where you set your goals to succeed. Some people set success and goals at first place. Well, that's very small room for error, you know.
Yeah.
But if you start setting your goals more realistic and more easier to achieve, confidence happens, momentum happens. And momentum's a lot. There's a lot to do with momentum. And once that ball starts rolling, you know, and you get that snowball effect, then you'll find out you can do things wrong and still win. You know, and people will laugh at you and make fun of you, and you're like, hey man, I'm not judging. You know, like I agree that was crazy, you know, that they just marked me a 19 or 20 or whatever. And but it's just the momentum that you need to create. And the only way to create momentum is, yeah, okay, I won first. Now I sucked at 2-3 shows. Now I won first. Well, that's not momentum,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Momentum is success. A successful shows my horses work good. All right, next one, hey, I made the finals. Hey, next one, I made a couple finals. Hey, next one, I got second place. I'll be there, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. Fail small.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I'm curious, and I want to try to tap into some of your mindset stuff here. So we always see, like, we see all of this stuff on the internet, all of Adan's successes. We see the highlight reel. We never see the failure reel. We never see all of this stuff you went through to get to this. You know, we never see anybody's. We don't, you know.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know, is there a favorite failure or perceived failure? You know, I mean, I feel like failure isn't just an opportunity to learn, but is there anything that jumps out to you throughout your career that you're like, oh, in the moment you may have been beating yourself up and not understood it, but then you look back and you're like, okay, I get it. I see why that had to happen, so this could happen.
This would turn into a lot longer show if I just start going down that line. But if you'll watch a webcast, Mark Michael's webcast long enough, you'll see me screw up a lot, you know. But I'm fortunate to take quite a few horses down the road, right? I enjoy the road. I did enjoy the whole Corona time, you know, and having to stay home. But every time that I stay home and I go on Cutting Horse Central webcast and I'm sitting at home and they're over there doing that, I'm just like, what did we do here? Why are we not there? Why, you know? And you can say, man, I need a break and this and that. As soon as you get it, it's grass is always greener, you know? So a couple things. One that comes to mind is when I was rodeoing, I lived with a great family. They took me and they gave me a lot of opportunity. I wanted a rope. I wanted a rodeo. And it was still a horse thing, but that's what I thought my passion was. And so it was with the Adams family, Wes and Liz Adams and all the boys. And I remember we were somewhere in Arizona, I think it was Arizona, and we had done pretty good in the first round. It was a pro rodeo, you know, so, and I'm 18, 19. So this is not just an everyday thing yet, you know, this is like, try to be cool, you know, like we did good one time, just don't change, you know, your head.
Heading or heeling?
I was heading for Austin Adams, the youngest one. And we'd been roping for years already, but we high school rodeoed, you know, before. And so Mr. West was, I think, excited for us or however. And he was on his way from one city to another, somewhere East Coast, West Coast. I don't know if he's coming or going, but he had some business partners that were flying with him. I'm pretty sure they were like from China or Japan or something, like not familiar with this whole deal. And so anyway, the second round rolls around, and this is so bad. I back in the box, and I feel real good, which is rare for me back then. I feel like everything feels good, I can feel it, and it's good. And when I come across there, I damn sure I started a good run, and I get it on a good time, and here we're going, everything's good. Now I'm like, I didn't screw up today, okay? And I'm like, it's all up to Austin now. Well, I'll be damned, I forgot to tie my cinch.
Oh, did you fall?
No, I mean, not really, but everything got so heavy and so slow, and this poor horse had a saddle horn right by his elbow, and it's just everything stops and you're done, and it is embarrassing.
Dude.
Mr. West, he brings people. He takes time to stop. We're doing good. We haven't been doing good. Everything's going good. And this little idiot forgot to tighten his cinch. And then that's when those truck rides, everybody needs to be hard on themselves for a while. No matter what you're going through in life, everybody needs a moment, whether it's anything.
Mm-hmm.
It can be family problems, it can be losing, winning, money, whatever. But don't let that truck ride home be too long, and thank goodness that I felt like I was failing too much rodeoing, that I left and come back home but that I think that I let that get to me, which God works in crazy ways, because if I wouldn't have overthought and overdwelled on it, I'd still be there, and this is where I want to be. But I think no matter what it is, like metaphorically speaking, whenever that truck ride's over, have your moment. Mm-hmm. Don't keep driving down the same sad road. When you get out of that truck and next, right. You still, no matter how good you did that day or how bad, you open the door for somebody, make somebody feel good, and we're not here to talk about my problems. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they go away. They go away. You leave what you did wrong in the back of your head, but don't leave the big problem in there, because there's not enough room in here.
Yeah.
You got to just take the little things and go with it and adjust and see what you can do next time.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%, man. And it's one of those, like, I'm beginning to realize it's okay to feel the feels. It's okay to feel angry, frustrated, happy, sad. But the key is to release the attachment to any expectation.
Yes,
I think that's why anybody successful is where they are, because they have expectations and high expectations. And again, I'll only speak for me. When I realized that it was an attachment to that expectation, which is 99% of the time, it's ego driven. And so that was a big eye opener. And
what you need the ego. You need the ego. You gotta have.
As long as you got a tight grip on the reins of the ego.
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with you.
Yes, sir. You need something in you that says, I'm different. I don't want to say better, but I have something that brought me here, and I belong here.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, the people in the crowd, anybody that laughs at you because you did something stupid in the show pen, that's who I feel bad for, because either one, next run, next week, next show, they're going to screw up so bad, because karma is beautiful, and the other thing is that if those people are doing that, why would you care about it? And I think that when people say, I don't care what people think, I don't like that.
I'm with you.
Because you should I'm not a prime example, but you should care what the little kid that you walked by thinks. You should care what, certain people that you love think. Sometimes you don't want to know. Sometimes you rather not know what the people you love think. But but what's important about it is that you should care what good people think. You shouldn't care what bad people think. You know, and if they're okay with putting you down, we don't care what they think. We want to be around people. We want to hear people that are like, hey, that wasn't the way that you should do it, but it's okay. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just saying we need to practice a few things, do little things different. Or, hey, you had a bad day and it's a shitty day, and guess what? You're human. Yeah.
I've shifted my mindset. I used to be one of those that said, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. And I did. Like, anybody that says that does. And now I say, I'm okay with what anybody thinks. Because I can't control what they think. All I can control is me. In the majority of life, like, we can't control most of the shit that happens.
Yes, sir.
All we can control is what's between our ears and the perception that we have, and the narrative and the stories we tell ourselves. That is our reality. And that is, and I'm telling you, I'm saying this like I have it figured out. I don't have it figured out. No. This is a practice, right? Yes, and I have to consciously stay aware of those things, whether it's in performing anything or just in everyday life, because this thing we have, this brain is on constant. I mean, it's evolutionary, right? Like, that's how we're hardwired. That's why we're here today, because we survived. Our ancestors survived. And so it's we don't need those survival skills. We don't need the fears and the worries that there's a bear around this corner, It's like, how do we reframe that? How do we recalibrate that?
And how do we make our bears small? It's just like we were talking about before. There should be something to avoid around the corner, but hey, if you make it around the corner and it was bad turn, then it's not the end of the world, you know? And like, talking about things that you're talking about as far as perception, love, reputation, these are things that you can't touch. You can't reach out and put any of those in your pocket and just decide that's you got it, can't buy it.
It's all abstract,
And so, to me, stats, that's different. That is something you can't touch. You can't fold that piece of paper and put it in your pocket. I am much more into reputation than stats. And I would like to end with a good reputation, The stats, I'm very okay with, and I'm very fortunate. That's a bonus. But
I'm curious, what is a good reputation
exactly
for Adan Banuelos?
Okay, well, now we're going back to don't care what people think. What is a reputation? That is that. That is what the world thinks of you, and how many good deals you did, and how many bad deals you did, and how many lies you told, and which we all do those things. But some people do it more or less than others. And so, to me, I don't know, I have an idea and I have thoughts in my head that I would like to have that reputation. I have not mastered that yet. And I don't even want to say it out loud because everybody's going to know I ain't got it yet. Okay? So we're not going to go down that deal. But that's where, it's not about that. And I think that sometimes we try to get some of that to the point to where we sacrifice what really matters and we leave that behind and forget.
I don't know where I heard this, but I thought it was funny, dude. You said everybody gets nervous, referring to a showing. Like, everybody gets nervous, and if you don't get a little nervous, you don't want to win. And there's nothing wrong with butterflies if you can get them to fly straight. How do you channel that nervous energy in a productive way? Before a show, like you're getting ready to show.
Yep. Well, first off, realize you're going to get nervous. I think a lot of people get shocked, Like, I am nervous a lot. like all the time. Like right now, the camera, this thing, answering these questions. I'm getting better at not stuttering during these things, but I still have some nerves, but a good amount, not a, so I think that I practice a lot of understanding 3 days before the Futurity finals, 3 days before the Futurity first go. I practice that weird feeling and knowing and work one cow, everything's on the line, or make 2 moves like everything's on the line.
So mentally, you put yourself in.
And I'm
Will
like,
Rogers.
I don't leave my hand down right here at home because I know this horse is gonna throw me a funny, And well, whenever you help a horse get in and out of trouble, then that horse's mistake becomes very gray, and that horse's mistake becomes, did he screw up or did he not? And then it, it's whatever. But nerves are inevitable, and it's gonna happen. And I think that it's a lot easier to control, or no, it'll take you less time to figure out how to control them if you just start off knowing they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
Just go ahead. Don't let that red line on the wall be right when you get nervous. That red line is like, people forget English right there, and man, we practice so good at home, and then you just know, and I'm talking about customers, non-pros, amateur, whatever.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? Like, it's all of us, and you can have not enough nerves,
Has that ever happened to you?
100%.
What is that? Is that like an arrogance or an overconfidence?
It's arrogance, overconfidence, shittiness. It's all those things. Yep. And I'll tell you a story. This is a good one. I was maybe 19, and my dad's riding SFR Magic Dog Futurity, and I had these dun horses back then, and I'm pretty sure this horse's name was a 𝘚𝘢𝘠𝑚 Matata, right? And this was a horse that I had a lot to do with, training. Riding a lot. You'll figure out that I didn't get him trained on time. But I rode this horse his young part and getting ready to go to the Futurity. Well, every year we go to Mike East's, and this place is unbelievable. And in talking about those 3 Futurities, I owe Mr. Mike East and his family and his ranch a lot of the credit, because they've just, every year you're lacking a lot, and then you're lacking a lot less when you leave there, and it happens in 4 or 5 days. But anyways, that's where we're at. And I get too confident, so confident, and I'm practicing this hold the rib, bend this horse, hold the hip, wait, go. Okay? And in my mind, I'm nailing it. So I get to the point where I convince myself that my dad needs my help. And I tell him one day, I'm like, hey, Dad, not to sound weird, but that horse just a tick stiff, and I think that I got my stuff together, and I think that you should let me work that horse. And my daddy's like, I think I'm just going to stay a little ranchy, Okay. I'm like, poor you. Okay. So we go to the Futurity, okay? And everything that I had practiced was big stops, shape, bend, hold, wait, go. And I put my hand down on the first cow. We take off flying, probably because I didn't cut it right, probably because I practiced too much on getting broke and wasn't broke enough. Anyways, take off flying, and I'm like, yep, it's coming. Yep, it's coming. This horse just kills this stop, monster stop. And I'm like, that's what we practice. And then here goes the cow, and this horse is still sitting there thinking about it, never turned. okay? And I've had very few horses not turn, and that is a big reason why, because my dad, we're riding out, and my dad has never done this before, even whatever, and we're riding out, and he's like, son, I can't take it anymore. We should talk about this. He said, yep. He goes, what are we training? And I said, horses, Dad. And he goes, what are we training them to do? And I said, cutting horses, Dad. And he goes, you forgot the cutting part. You know, like, who cares about if you don't turn at all, then you're not going to win. So,
right.
And my dad, that mare that he rode had been on cows for 9 months. 9 months. Never had a 2-year-old year.
Really?
And he was in the Futurity finals. Yeah. And I was like, poor Dad. Yep.
Man, I've noticed that, like, listening to you in some other interviews, like, you take the lessons, you take the advice that others give you, and you really internalize that. And you let that soak in. And I'm curious to know, like, who are some of those guys, even when you're at the level you're at now, like, who are some of those guys that you're still reaching out to for advice or their opinion?
Well, my dad. When I'm not scared of my mom's opinion, Paul, outside of the family, Paul gets a lot of my phone calls. And that's why I wish he was here, because he's been real good. And takes the time, slows down, tells me, who knows what he's doing when I call him, and he stops, you know. And I've got a lot of friends that have taken the time to help and explain, and you can't do it without them. But I will tell you, one of the key mental people was 𝘚𝘢𝘯𝘕𝘠𝑚. There's this gentleman named 𝘚𝘢𝘯𝑚. He's Matt 𝘠𝑚's dad. Matt 𝘠𝑚's a calf roper. He's made the NFR quite a few times, and this and that, and we lived together in Logandale for a short while when I was rodeoing, and this guy majored in psychology, and I was obviously a hothead, 16, 17 years old, and he was our calf roping coach, you know, and it was always so hot there, and I think he fell through some ice or something when he was young, and it could be 125 degrees, and he'd be out there in a little windbreaker sweater, you know, and it's hot. But just before you're about to quit, or you're about to stand up and say, you know what, he just walked by and he just, good job. Just a little, not much of a congratulations, just a little good job. And that guy, Mr. Kent, was very crucial to me controlling my thoughts, per se. You know, and he doesn't know that, you know, but he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Uncle Carlos was a very big, patient, positive person that helped me a lot too. And on the mental side, there's just not a whole lot of people, you know, like on the training side, there's the list is very long, but on the mental side, there's just not that many people that have a big influence, because you decide real quick whenever you're listening, is this good for my brain or is this not?
Yeah. And
even though they're still talking, you may not be absorbing it because you're like so scared to let that in your head.
Yeah.
So, but those people have been good for that. Yep.
Yeah. I do the same thing. I'm very particular and very selective as the input that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I got rid of cable TV 2 years ago because there's really nothing on there that I want to put into my head.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, Adan, some of those, you talk about the mental game, like the mental side of things. What are some practices that you may do, mindfulness stuff, to slow your mind down, or that you think may benefit you while you're in the show pen? For me, It's meditation, it's journaling, like getting my thoughts down on paper. It's just a dump. It's a mental dump. And then meditation, it makes me focus on my breathing. It makes me recognize my thoughts, because the thoughts are going to continue. They're going to continue to come.
Yes, sir.
It's not about not having thoughts. It's about acknowledging them and dismissing them. And I think that applies, that carries over into life and even in performance. Being able to slow my mind down and control what I'm thinking about. And really it's more of a positive affirmation versus letting the negative fear and worry by default take over. I'm controlling what I'm thinking about. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Which is very hard. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
To control what enters your mind, that's props on that. Because and I went through a stage where I had meditation apps on my phone, and I'd fall asleep listening to the right things, to where subconsciously during your rapid eye movement you're still letting good things and things that you don't have the courage to practice throughout the day, so you fall asleep listening to them. You know, so I went through that, and a lot of props to that, because I think that is a game that is real good, and I wish that I would have stuck with it and done it longer. And for me, my energy, meaning aura, meaning however you want to call that, which sounds very weird, especially in our deal, but if I feel myself too nervous or too amped, then I try to chill it out. And if I feel myself too chill, which has happened in the last few years, like you're like, okay, we're going to another show, or all right, well, we're bringing in the cows for the final. No, let's go. You know, and then you bring yourself back up. So me having that I would say 1 to 10, me staying at a 7, subconsciously probably because I like that number. Staying at a 7 is important. You know, sometimes you get to a 5 and you're a little dull, and sometimes you get to a 9 and you're like, holy shit, I'm gonna screw this up out of effort. Yeah. So staying right there, that's the only thing that I know that I practice, is knowing myself, and like, not excited, get excited. Too excited, calm down. You know, stuff like that. That's the only thing I know.
I think that's great, and I think a lot of listeners would like to hear like some practices that you do. Like if you're feeling down, how do you ramp up? And if you're too high, what are you doing to bring it down? I mean, are you going for a run? Are you chilling out with music? I mean, what are some of the things you're doing?
Well, truly I just work horses, right? Like there's no, I wish I wrote, I used to, that was something to get away. I love to play pool, you know, like that to me has a lot to do with cutting. It has a lot to do with, it's very easy to try too hard. It's very easy to shoot too hard. It's very easy to get scared with this much green and that much green. And really, when you get back a little bit and you look, it's not very far, you know, but it's like when it's your shot and you're down there, you're like, man, that's a long ways. No, it's not, you know, but we create these things in our mind to say that, man, our goal is hard to get. But I haven't got to do those things in a while. So to me, music, I do listen to music a lot, only when I'm working, because a lot of times when I'm not working, I'm on the phone, and I'm trying to work on that, you know, to where I'm not on the phone as much now, or at least during certain hours. And so, do you pray?
Well, I think meditation and prayer are like cousins. So, yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. So I think that there's numerous things that the meaning power of prayer bring to the table. Okay, and God has blessed me, and and a lot of times when I pray, I'm like, I know that you shouldn't still look after me this much. I know that I, don't deserve this and that, and he still does, and I'm very grateful. But there's a lot of things in your head, and I think this is meditation. So there's a lot of thoughts rolling around in your head, and just like we're talking about butterflies. And when you take a moment and you turn these thoughts into words, it could be praying, you're meditating. I choose to pray because I don't think that it's weird, So when you take all these gray, fuzzy, hard to see thoughts and you put them into words and you hear yourself that simple message, all of a sudden there's not a lot of things wrong. All of a sudden you just said, this is the obstacle that I would like to overcome. Mm-hmm. And it's very simple all of a sudden. So now you're not working on 10 things that you don't even know if it's the right one or not, but you're like, when you use your words to say it and to say it out loud, not only was God going to probably help you, but you done told yourself.
Yeah.
You took the most important thing out, and now, okay, that's obvious. That's what we need to work. Check that off before we go to the other 9 things that don't even matter.
Right.
It's the same with horses. It's like, don't work on 10 things at the same time. Right. Find the thing that you cannot survive. Take your time, fix it, check it off.
Yeah.
Next,
Yeah, so work and think about it with a focused intent, right?
Yes, sir.
Because it's like the law of attraction. It's like, the best way I know how to describe it is like, if you are vehicle shopping and you want a white Toyota 4Runner, all you're thinking about is a white Toyota 4Runner. Well, you start to see that shit everywhere. Mm-hmm. You start to hear of other people that have them. Why? Because that's where your brain's at. That's where your headspace is at. Well, they didn't just start making more white Toyota 4Runners.
Yep.
But that's where your attention's at, And
Yep.
so I think it's like where we place our attention is where we place our energy. Mm-hmm. And so, I guess I could say I pray. Like I do. I believe in God. I believe there is a higher power. I guess without knowing it, I am praying.
Yes, sir.
But another thing that I lean hard into is gratitude. I have gratitude journal. I'll write down stuff every night, even the stuff that I don't even have yet, because I feel like we can attain the things that we don't have if we are great. Like if we are grateful for them. I'm sure I'm going to screw this up. If we're grateful for them as if we already attain them, we're no longer in a state of lack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. If you believe you have the tools to get it, then all of a sudden you're not wanting, or you're not worried about not. Mm-hmm. Now it's just a matter of time. Now it's just a matter of when is it coming to me.
Space and time. That's it. Yeah. And that may get a little woo-woo for some people and a little metaphysical, but it's a real thing.
It is.
It's a real thing,
And that's what helped me in the show pen the most, is that I just knew that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And luckily it did. But I wasn't worried about if. I just was curious about when. And I got fortunate and lucky and all those things, But I understand 100% what you're saying when it comes to that.
And luck plays a part. And it's very cliche to say, but we create our own luck.
Yes, a lot of 90-something% of the time.
Yeah. Let's see. I got just a few more, man, and
no worries, yeah.
And then I'll turn you loose. But and this is a cliche question, but I love it. I think it's a cool question. If you could go back in time, metaphorically speaking, and give the 20-year-old Adan advice. This will be two-part, as a horseman and then also your in your personal life. What advice, with the knowledge you have today, what advice do you give to your 20-year-old self?
Well, that's deep. It's a lot easier to answer on the horse side, but I'll keep thinking about the other one while I say this, is that I would be less concerned, if I could, back then, and give a horse just a little bit more of a step by, or a little bit more of a overturn, or not enough to let them make a little bit more of a mistake before you come in to fix it, because mentally we already know that mistake's coming, and subconsciously we try to prevent it, and it takes a long time to teach a horse that way. It's like taking a kid by the hand and leading him by everything he wants to touch, and like, okay, well, now he's in college, now we got to put our hand down, and you turn the kid loose and he's going to run over there and burn the shit out of his fingers, stick in a light socket, who knows what. So to me, the message is a lot more obvious when you can control the heat, and you're like, you've been wanting to touch it, so now I know it's not too hot.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, and then nope, now come back over here.
Uh-huh.
And that to me, like when a horse is about to go by, then we're already there because we know he's going to screw up, but it's the message isn't clear. So when that horse does go by, then you're like, hey, that was wrong. Then he's like, oh, okay, I got it. And so I would say be less concerned about the little mistakes, let them happen, address them, and then on you go. And on the personal side, I don't have that figured out yet. Like I don't know, like people say, where'd you grow up? Well, I don't know yet, I was raised in Jacksboro, and I think that what I would say is try to become more consistent and focus on the people that matter a little bit more, I would say, because a lot of people around me love me, and a lot of people support and help and do a lot for me, and I'm so busy worrying about the people because they're helping me that I can be concerned about the people that are paying and people that, this and that. I would say be a little bit more that way, but I don't have that figured out yet. So yeah.
I think that's one of the best answers is I don't think anybody ever knows anything. Like we think we have an idea a lot of times, but to admit that we don't know, I think it is just it's a continuous search, Yeah. Man, I could sit here and talk to you for another 2 or 3 hours, Adan.
No
I'm going to respect your time, though. And we'll roll into what was once called a rapid fire round. Wasn't so rapid. So now we call them I call it the slow fire round. But it is. It's brought to you by Ghostwood Distilling Company. And these will be a little lighter than the last one. So
Okay.
you can relax.
Okay.
So you travel a lot for shows. I'm curious to know, what's one place you've never been that you'd like to visit?
I don't think about a place. Hey, Fiji.
There you go. So you do
Yeah, I would like that.
Why Fiji?
Fiji, because it looks cool on the pictures.
Okay, fair enough. If you could go back in time, hypothetically speaking, and live for 1 week in any time period, when would that be?
Billy the Kid's days. Yeah, I'd like to experience that and see.
Yeah.
Not in the city, but just see that time frame.
Yeah.
See what I would be like if I'd be a wuss or if I'd be good or,
Yeah.
not die. I'd like to make it back. Just 1 week. Yeah.
What's the best purchase in the last 6 months, under $100, that's made a positive impact on your life? I'll give you for instance. So mine is wind chimes. I bought some wind chimes for my barn, and then it's so therapeutic.
Yep.
And then also I bought a 6-foot iPhone charger for my bed, so I can sit in bed.
Those are good.
Yeah.
I would say this. I don't think I've had it over 6 months. That long charger.
Yeah,
That
that's a
thing
game
is
changer,
yeah,
right?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in a camper. I live in a fifth wheel.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. So that thing is like the old school phones where you can like talk. You can talk, and I only have 2 stairs. But I'll tell Rachel, I'm like, hey, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to the 2nd floor. But that charger will reach just about anywhere.
Dude, I bet that could be a hit. Anytime I think I have a cool idea, somebody invented it like 10 years ago. But like, if you could create an iPhone charger that was like those old stretchy phone cords,
Yeah.
I'll look into it. Tell me a book or books that you have either reread that you go back to or that you gifted You're not a reader.
No, sir. I read a half a book one time, and it was about red, yellow, and green colors, and about which person you are, and no, I don't read.
Fair enough.
No.
Well, that's why we can edit.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can tell them I don't care. I mean, I write a lot, and when we run into cows, I write down, 10 bunches a day, 60 head of cows. I mean, what is that? 600 cows a day, so I don't know.
Hang on that for a minute, because that's what blows my damn mind. How you all remember, you all being open guys, almost like people. You can look at these cows one time and watch them settle, and you know them. Like, you know them.
Yeah.
How do you get better at that?
Well, you don't. It doesn't always go. Like, you'll look at a cow 20 times, and you'll be like, "That's that cow. That's that cow. That's that cow." You don't look at it one time and you got it, unless it's a very obvious cow. Red motts and baldies, paints and colors and this and that. But a black cow, it does take a lot of messing with your mind and saying, like, okay, that cow's the hardest one to find. He's about to be done. How fast can I find her? And then you just comb through. When you're sitting up top, comb through real quick. Boom.
So you practice finding them while you're sitting in the cow box.
If you get caught up in time and you get everything and you run out of things to do, just all of a sudden, just like the hardest one to find, where's she at? There she is. But these things, you do to yourself. You're just playing.
Yeah. That's something I struggle with, man. But like riding through the herd, again, I've only been doing this for a year. But when I first started, it would be either Casey Green or James, and they're like, okay, the headlight on the outside, and I'm like, the fuck is a headlight?
Yeah.
Witchy tail. I'm like, what is a witchy tail? Like, I have no idea what any of this shit is. So I think it'd be cool to have somebody on one day, a podcast, to explain what you guys label these things.
Yep. It would be beneficial to a lot of people, probably. Yeah.
I think so. Me primarily. Tell me a 3-year-old that you trained and showed that you would like to have back, either because they were a super talented horse or because maybe you would do things a little bit different.
Not many that I've trained through their career that I would want back that aren't still going, and I don't mean that in a bad way to nobody, but my career started a lot. I got a lot of horses, I got, and not all good. Like, I got horses that weren't winning here, and that's how I started my deal. And then I didn't train a whole lot of horses up until a few years ago, from start to finish. I didn't. I think that I could have, but I didn't. So therefore, something wasn't right, But you know what? That pedal to the metal, Wes Ashlock started, and he had him, and I got him at the end of his 2-year-old year, and he went through the 3-year-old deal with me. That is a horse that I did not capitalize on. That horse won $300,000 and never made a Fort Worth finals. And I dropped the ball so many times on that horse. We won a deal in Fort Worth, but it wasn't an age event. It was a showdown, a Cowtown deal. But that horse was, if you put him in 10, 15 other people's hands, that horse would have won so much money,
What do you think you did wrong, or what would you have done different?
Well, your favorite horse is always the hardest one to show. So it's always, you're always like, I got to do this right and I got to do that right, and you end up doing none of it right. Whenever that horse is the one that you have the most confidence in, you don't have to do those. All you got to do is just find a way to get your hand down. I just made this mistake the other day at the Super Stakes. Instead of trusting the quality and trusting the animal, you try to take it into your own hands, and you don't do that. Like, trust it and just let it go. And That's one that I think that I would really like a second go at. But because I screwed up so many times on him is why, I think about it. So you don't really want anything back,
right?
Because then it's easy to do over, and you don't want that either.
Yeah.
So
I get it. All right, last question, my friend. If you could have a billboard, metaphorically speaking, to get a message out to millions of people, what does that message say?
Don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
I love it, dude. That's great. That's great, man. Well, Don, that's all I have for you, my friend. Again, thank you for your...
No, that's not right. We shouldn't put that on a billboard.
Oh, dude, I love it.
No, I would say if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. That's something kids can drive by. I don't know what the sweaty stuff is when people say that. So I don't know,
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah, you decide on that. And you guys decide which one of them two, or just make a two-sided billboard and go with it.
Well, dude, man, I've had a blast with you today. And again, I appreciate you and your time. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man. This is good.
You bet. You bet, brother. I think we'll definitely have you back at some time if you're up for it. So
yes, sir.
I think we could easily do a round 2.
Awesome. Yep.
All right, dude.
Thank you.